All right, welcome back to another episode of the Waveform podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Marques.
And I'm Andrew.
And today there's not really a whole lot of products coming out. But
it's July.
Yeah, it's the middle of the year. It's not too crazy, but there is still a lot happening in the tech world generally as there is. So we're going to talk about a bunch of these different things. Some of them are more real newsy than others, but you'll see what we mean by that. Plus, we got a couple hot takes at the end.
You have to stay for hot takes.
Apparently, we're making a segment out of this hot take thing.
I really like the idea of a hot take segment.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
We'll see if we get canceled before we do another segment.
We'll definitely feel it out. But I wanted to start off with
the most important one.
My favorite major important headline of this entire week.
For sure.
Which is that Apple's weather app was discovered to not be showing 69 degrees Fahrenheit to anyone, anywhere. Now, I saw this. I saw this on Twitter first. I think The Verge got the first
they made an
scoop
article
about it. They wrote an article, and that was essentially the entire point of the article. Is like, guys, you can look in your weather app right now. If you're on iOS 14 or earlier, you can look up a city right now that's 69 degrees, find it in AccuWeather, find it in Dark Sky, whatever, and then open the Apple weather app, and it'll say 68 or 70. It refuses to show you 69 in the current temperature, in the forecast, and the highs and the lows. It just won't do it. I've seen it in my weather widget. And as soon as I saw this headline, well, naturally I started looking up cities that I figured were about 69 degrees Fahrenheit. We went through, I think it took us like 90 seconds to find a couple, like one is in Maine.
I think Adam found the first one in, what?
It was in some other country, but then we figured Boston.
Boston
was another one, and we found it was 69 degrees in our AccuWeather app. And for some weird reason, it wasn't a data sourcing error. It really just refused from the same data source to show 69 degrees. So, okay. Immediately, the reactions are like, "What? Okay, Apple, like, why? It's not that serious.
Yeah,
like, really
no,
spending extra energy coding to not show 69? What are you, that anti-meme? Like, is that seriously where we're at right now?"
It feels almost like I guess it's not exactly the Streisand effect, but it's like if you're trying to not show something, chances are everybody is going to show that more often.
Yeah. The second this article came out, I made a video like pulling up a city showing that it was 69 degrees in this city and that it was 68. I think it was showing 68 or 70 on my phone, 68. And yeah, immediately everyone starts checking and fact checking their own phones and seeing what's going on. Lots of people running iOS 15 beta were like, "You're wrong, Marques. It shows 69 right here." It does show in iOS 15 beta, but you're running a beta OS, so that's not what I'm talking about. But this immediately became super fascinating and sort of spread around like a wildfire. But the mystery has been solved. The mystery has, in fact, been solved. And it turns out it's not just Apple being some stuffy megacorp that doesn't want to show 69.
Anti-meme,
Yeah, it's not actually just that. The first thing that ticked me off on maybe it being a little different is someone tweeted, if you notice, it also doesn't ever show 65 or 67 degrees in the weather app either. Again, it might show it in the widget, which is kind of interesting, but then you open the app and you look at the future forecasts, and sure enough, in Boston, it was like 68, 68, 68, 66, 64. And I started looking around, and I also didn't find any other 65s or 67s, which is weird. If you're on an iPhone right now, on iOS 14 or earlier, you can look in the weather app, and you will not find 69 degrees Fahrenheit, 67 degrees, or 65 degrees. So then it was like, okay, what's actually going on? Why? Turns out the reason is most likely explained by where they source their data and how they source their data.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are asking, well, where are you finding that it's 69 versus 68? Maybe it's a discrepancy in the sourcing. It's a Weather Channel is where, now they bought Dark Sky, which does have their own data, but at the corner of iOS 14's weather app, it still says the Weather Channel. So if you go to weather.com, that's where they're getting their data from. But it looks like they're sourcing it in Celsius integers, basically. Now, most of the world uses Celsius, so that makes a lot of sense. But here in the U.S., we are stubbornly still using Fahrenheit. F for freedom, for Fahrenheit. And so we're converting these source data, Celsius integers, not decimals, into Fahrenheit. And so sure enough, 19 degrees Celsius is 66.2 degrees Fahrenheit, which rounds to 66. Then when you go to 20 degrees Celsius, that's 68.
Yeah.
So you just skipped 67.
Yep.
And 21 degrees Celsius is 69.8, which rounds to 70. So you'll never show 69. So this seems to be the most likely explanation for why it's not showing up, and also probably why you are seeing it in iOS 15 betas, because they've either fixed that or adjusted to source somewhere else, dark sky, or they're using integers or with decimals now, not just integers. Whatever it is, it seems to be fixed in iOS 15. But I still thought this was hilarious, because for a couple minutes there, the internet was like, "Wait a second,
having a ton of fun.
What is going on here?" If somebody found that it was negative 69 degrees in Antarctica, and it was showing that, which is funny because I looked it up. Negative 56 degrees Celsius is negative 68.8 Fahrenheit, which rounds to negative 69. So it will show negative 69, but not positive 69.
My first thing I want to know is, because you said The Verge got the scoop. I'm wondering, was this a scoop? Was this who thought? I am dying to know who at The Verge was just like, I'm hoping has this notebook of just days that it has not shown 69 to eventually get to the point where he's like, I'm writing an article. And it wound up being the most popular article on the internet yesterday.
Yeah, it probably just happened somebody tweeted or just emailed them hey, if you look around the app, you won't see 69. Probably happened the same way with us, where we went, wait, really? And then we just started searching everywhere for finding 69. I found 69% humidity. I did not find 69 degrees. So yeah, once you get that far, you kind of write it up and just see what happens.
It's one of those things that's so small where you'd never really think about it. The difference between 68, 69, and 70 degrees. If you stepped outside, you wouldn't be like, this weather app's wrong.
Yeah,
it's definitely not.
Yeah.
This, but
well, that is part of my hot take. Should I just get right into my hot take?
No, I think we should save it for the end.
Really? We should save it? All right.
We have to save it for the end.
I'll save it. Retention.
Retention. One last thing on that though, Carrot app, which if you don't know what Carrot weather app is, it's hilarious. It's just the weather with usually something really funny.
It's like a sassy weather app.
Yeah, sassy weather app's the best way. But anyways, immediately after all this news broke, someone posted a screenshot of just in their Carrot app. It just says, feels like 17 degrees. I promise to always tell you when it's 69 degrees out.
I downloaded it as soon as I saw that.
Oh, did you get it?
That was what earned my download. I downloaded Carrot, and yes, immediately it was telling me.
Is it? That's amazing.
It's 75 degrees, but we'll tell you when it's 69. So thank you, Carrot, for the nod there. We appreciate it. Or maybe The Verge appreciates it. Whoever you're nodding to, I'm sure they love it. That's kind of it. That's my important news of the. I just had to kick that off.
I'm glad we got it out of the way. Now everyone can take a deep breath and just
Waveform
relax
podcast.
for nice, easy news stuff after this.
We're all about
nothing
the
else in here
hard-hitting,
is really that important.
The hard-hitting investigative journalism right off the top. Apple does have a new product out, which is always something we like to take note of. This one is the MagSafe battery pack. I want to give a shout out to Brandon, who tweeted years ago that they should do this. He's not the only one who tweeted they should do this, but we want to give him a little props for that. It's literally just a battery pack that slaps onto the back of the phone with the magnets from MagSafe and wirelessly charges your iPhone.
Vin called it a giant dentine ice.
Kind of looks like
it.
One.
Looks just like
it's
it with
white.
an Apple logo on it.
Yeah.
I think we all had kind of mixed reactions around the studio. It is one of those things where at first, to me, I was like, that seems like a pretty good idea. I'd love to just have it in my pocket or my backpack or whatever. And if my phone's low, instead of having to carry a wire around, wait till I get my car, wait till I get my desk, have a big battery bag, just slap it on the back and it charges. But then you see it's $99. It's only I think it's under 1,500 milliamp hours.
1460.
So that wouldn't even charge a full battery, right?
Not only is it smaller than the actual physical size of the battery, but wireless charging does lose a lot of efficiency to heat. So you're looking at maybe 70 to 80% efficiency of getting that milliamp hour count into your phone. So you're not getting close to a full charge out of that. I can already see where this is going, which is the crowd that's just get a wired power bank that can charge it 8,000 times and put it in your backpack. I
wanted to be because I knew that it's obvious that's going to be the suggestion there and the argument, and I wanted to argue against it as this is nice because it's small and it's super easy. It's typical Apple. It's not complicated. It's just the most perfect way of solving it, except for now seeing that it won't even charge a full battery. I just don't see why you wouldn't buy the Anker Power Core, 26,000 milliamp hours for $70. It's clearly bigger. clearly needs cables. But I can charge anything. Well, I can charge my Switch. I can charge my laptop. I can charge my phone. I can charge my
So classic.
ear. Like I can charge everything with it. I just don't get why I wouldn't. I'd rather just deal with the cable.
Because Apple makes products for a universe where other companies don't exist. So
they still have other products that exist that this thing could charge. It doesn't even charge the product fully that it's made for.
I mean, you can charge your phone with your MacBook Pro if you really want that much battery, which I've done, by the way. You can just plug it directly in with that cable. I think this is just like an easy, convenient thing. This is like an in case of emergency, like convenience thing. Oh, what's that? You have 20% battery and you still have more stuff to do today. Pop it on the back of the phone. Don't even think about it. You'll have the rest of the day for enough battery. Like, you charge it up with Lightning. You just have it for when you need it. It's in your bag. It's in your purse. Whatever.
Wait, it has to be charged by Lightning.
You got to charge it.
Do you know that? But is it Lightning or is it USB-C?
It's Lightning. I believe it's Lightning.
Adam's saying it's Lightning.
It's Lightning because it's in the iPhone's world where you would only buy this if you have an iPhone. So you have a Lightning charger.
Yeah, but if it's Apple, they're assuming you have a MacBook too, right? Which is USB-C.
Well, if you have any laptop, it's a MacBook. But maybe you don't have a laptop. So yeah, it's a Lightning charged thing. Yeah. Super simple, but obviously it's the classic Apple, like, wow, it's a little overpriced. It's $100 for half a charge, but it is the one. There are other third-party ones, by the way, that do the exact same thing.
That clip on the back?
MagSafe, wireless charging, not even clip. They just magnet onto the back.
So I guess that's what
I think Anker makes one of the better ones right now.
Really?
It's not as pretty, but it's
I don't think
functional.
the Apple one's that pretty. I think Apple's would be prettier if they match colors to the different iPhones. Like, it feels like something they should do.
Let me show you the Anker one, because I think Apple's is way better looking than the Anker one. This is the one that Anker made, right? I'd take the Apple one every time. It's
definitely bigger.
It's bigger. It doesn't taper either around the edges the way Apple does.
Here's the thing. Do you expect... So when I first see these, I'm like, are people going to like continue to use their phone with this on the back?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Like the ugly battery
it
case.
Makes the most sense. Yeah, it's like I'm guessing they're just probably not doing the battery case anymore, right?
Yeah.
I do have to assume that it probably has like one or two features with it, just in the sense of like MagSafe connecting because it's first party. And like I would always prefer to do first party over anything, but it's still just, to me, I don't know, feels rough.
Yeah, it's just a Apple world thing. Like, lots of people are going to be in the Apple store and realize that they want a battery case, and this is the one that they sell for the iPhone 12. It slaps on the back. It's kind of neat. Doesn't have to be amazing. Some people just have that money to just go, okay, yeah, I just want a battery that's just going to work with the iPhone.
I also wonder how many MagSafe accessories you can have that then, like, which are taking over the other ones. So, like, if I have an Apple Wallet, I have to take that off every time now to use this charging thing, right?
Yes, you do. If you have a MagSafe case, you can put this on the back of the MagSafe case and it will charge your phone through the case like the MagSafe charger puck would.
Mm-hmm.
Not the most efficient thing in the world, but it works.
I would really like to see, just last thing to say on that is how, from a dead battery, how much it actually charges. What would your guess be?
So the iPhone 12 like Pro.
Let's just go regular 12.
iPhone 12, what is the battery size? iPhone 12's got a battery that is...
It's like 36, right?
No, it's smaller. It's much smaller. iPhone 12, 2,815 milliamp hours.
Okay. Wow.
So the thing about that is you're coming in at 1460 for this. So that's half if you get all of it out of the battery. Yeah, I'm going to go
40%.
40%, yeah.
I mean, in most days that gets you through the day. So it doesn't really, it's fine.
I'm not in the target demographic.
Yeah,
for it,
no,
so
I'm not
Gonna
either.
buy one.
All right, let's go to something a little different, I guess. I have no good segue for this one, but it was a fun article I thought I found.
Okay.
And it's about planes, which is fun because there's a plane flying over, and you might hear it.
Nice.
There's the segue.
Nice.
Finally, Newark Airport working for us. Yeah. All right, so United to buy 100 electric planes for short-haul trips.
Wow.
This is something,
electric planes?
That's exactly what I said when I saw this. Not only are there, I guess, electric... I mean, clearly we have to assume there are people working on electric planes. Like, that's just got to be one. But the fact that we're close enough to being, like, United's pledging to buy 100 of them, it's from a startup company in Sweden called Heart Aerospace. I think the main thing here is don't think immediately, like, giant commercial... I'm going to say 747. I think that's a larger plane, but
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
This article says 19 passenger plane, 250-mile range.
Very small. So essentially what it is actually really good for is if you think of like a large airport hub, Chicago O'Hare is a perfect example because in the Midwest, it connects flights from the East Coast to the West Coast and kind of sends you everywhere from there. But at the same time, it has a ton of Midwest states around it that you would generally fly into, take a very small plane to hop to Michigan or to hop to North Dakota or something like that. So it would take over there where a lot of those planes are getting those flights are getting canceled because it's not efficient or it's not
there's not enough people getting on the plane to make it worth flying.
Yeah, to make it worth flying with fuel costs and everything like that. So like they're not doing as many of those flights anymore. So it just would start taking over smaller trips like that. And that's I think pretty awesome. And it says these could be like in service as soon as 2026, which is not that far away, 5 years away. So that's pretty amazing. It's cheaper. It's clear. Like the biggest thing here is just planes have crazy emissions, and we're clearly in a world where we need to reduce emissions. And I appreciate them taking a step, and hopefully it leads to bigger steps of eliminating those emissions.
Yeah. This is. I mean, I don't know pretty much anything about electric planes. I've heard that this is like a thing that would be really cool to work on, but every time it's come up, I think I talked to Neil deGrasse Tyson about this. The energy density of batteries isn't quite good enough yet.
Yeah.
To lift all of that weight of the battery off and then fly with the power generated from the battery. But as battery tech improves, maybe that's a projection that will make this possible by 2026. But the other thing is, like when you think about sustainable energy, we're on, the cars are actually starting to see the light. We're starting to see maybe in 10, 20 years, there will be way more electric cars on the road. And eventually we see a world where we've wiped out the amount of emissions coming from cars. There still leaves boats, trains, planes are an absolutely massive one, as you pointed out. Mm-hmm. And eventually, we got to get to those too. So the fact that we start with the small ones, like the Nissan Leaf of planes or whatever, that's fine. That's a good start. But obviously, we want to get to the massive planes too.
Yeah, I wonder how well this would do also in just like the private plane sector. I mean, I know that's not, it's not hitting emissions like a 747, but there still are a lot of private planes flying all over the place. And it's almost, if you're doing it by passenger, it probably could be pretty similar to like emissions per person.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Know what I mean? So like if these are smaller planes, maybe that. I'm also, this is a total assumption here. So if someone wants to correct me, please do.
Yeah. Private planes are a very small number of passengers, very high number of emissions per passenger, but they are small planes with smaller gas tanks. They don't really do cross-country flights the same way as 747
No,
would.
Which is why something like this
is a good place to start.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I just thought that was really neat, yeah.
I hope in my lifetime that I'm able to fly on an electric plane.
That would be really awesome.
I think it would still feel exactly the same as a passenger as a regular plane because it's still jets, I imagine. It's still making lots of noise. Because it's instead of burning fuel,
it's still running the turbines.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so it's still going to feel like a regular jet, but I just hope that for principle, I can, in my lifetime, ride an electric plane. That would be cool.
It would be cool. It would be cool to just also ride in a brand new plane. Every time I'm in a plane and I feel like it's nice, I like hear someone talk about it. I'm like, it's like, this is a 30-year-old plane. It just and always baffles me how long those are like stay in commission. Last thing, Nothing and StockX.
I saw this.
This is a weird one that came out like 20 minutes before we sat down to record this, and we just wanted to talk about it quickly.
Man, okay. So you've probably heard by now about Nothing. They're making a bunch of products starting with headphones, the Ear One, and we know they're going to be these transparent earbuds. They started to slowly tease information about them one by one. This is like their whole strategy. This is kind of the same as what OnePlus is doing because it's the same CEO as OnePlus used to have, Carl from OnePlus. And they've gone all the way to the very highest end of hype. I've been using the word hype to talk about this, but I think StockX connection sort of solidifies it because what is a more hype connected company than StockX? StockX is a reseller listing site for a lot of apparel and footwear.
For hype stuff.
Hype shoes, hype apparel. So if you find a hype pair of shoes and you want to buy, somebody bought one of the limited edition drops and has one in your size, you want to buy it secondhand from them, does this whole verification process, and you can buy one or auction a pair of shoes. And that's kind of what they're known for. They started branching off, though, more recently into like electronics. I think they got the PS5 on there for a while, which is interesting. One of the most hype gadgets.
Like partnered with Sony, or?
I don't know if it was a partner with Sony, but it was definitely available for a while on StockX with the whole verification thing and everything. So this Nothing partnership is it's an auction where they'll be auctioning the first 100 pairs, which will come with like a little engraving and a little special, box or whatever, to whoever submits the 100 highest bids.
Yeah.
It will be available for general availability later, but, and I think we know the price already, $100. So the 100 people who just want to spend however much they want to be one of the first 100 can get one, whether they spend $101 or $200 or whatever they want. They just have to be one of the top 100 bids.
Yeah, the engraving you're talking about is the edition of it. So it's like a limited edition 1 to 100. You get the serial number, essentially. I'm assuming the rest of them after that aren't going to have the engraved serial number on it. So these are just the first 100. You're basically paying to say that you have one of the first 100 of a company that doesn't really exist yet, or has made a product yet.
Exactly. So here's the thing. On one hand, I get it. It's the perfect engine for like the beginning of hype. If you're a brand new electronics company building hype, what better way to get people really into it and to make a bunch of money than to give people the feeling of exclusive early access? And anyone can. If you bid high enough, you can have one of the first 100 of these cool gadgets this company is making. That's like a feeling people really like, exclusive, early access, whatever it is. But on the other hand, having one of the first 100 products that a new electronics company makes, I think is really rarely actually valuable. Like if you had one of the first 100 iPhones, which is not, by the way, one of Apple's first ever products. If you had an Apple One, okay, yeah, that's very valuable. But that's Apple. Like, imagine if you had one of the first 100 OnePlus Ones, because that's a company that's done pretty well. They've had a couple years of success, really had to come up. Same CEO. That's about as good as a company can go in the short term. How much is a OnePlus One worth if you have one of the first 100 today?
I'm sure it's worth something, whether it was worth holding onto it for that long or even paying extra to get it. It's probably worth more than they paid for it.
Yeah, it's a sentimental thing. Like you have to want that rather than I don't think you can depend on that being an investment and you're going to sell it later. There's certain companies and certain styles of products where that clearly works. And this is a model that you can follow. Like the first 1,000 Tesla Roadsters cost more than the rest. They're the Founders Edition. They're going to be valuable later because they are a part of the first 1,000. But that's a company like Tesla where you imagine they'll be around longer, and even the original Tesla Roadsters from back in the day are more valuable now than they used to be. But I just think when you get more and more gadgety and techy, that lifespan of people caring about them is a little bit weaker. I think you got to be further from tech.
I would first off, Adam just looked it up on eBay, and you can get a OnePlus One for $30 right now. So yeah, not a great investment if you try to pull that off. I would almost branch out further than just tech. I feel like in today's generation, just in general, not even just with tech, collectibles have become such a big thing. Selling old things for tons of money has just become such something everyone looks out for, that it seems like it just doesn't happen as much anymore. It's really hard to find that.
But isn't it usually
over new products? I think it's because we've seen these old for instance, I think it was either Mario 64, a Mario Super Nintendo brand new in box just sold for a couple $100,000, I think. But in the older generations, it's because of how rare they are now, because all those people took them out and played them and then probably threw them away by now. Look at Pokemon cards. People are just buying packs and immediately putting them into sleeves. It's just it's not a thing people are playing with anymore, things that are getting destroyed, which means there's tons of them around. There's no rarity to increase the price of it.
So yeah, you got to hit this very special combo of being a rare classic
Yeah,
in
a
premium
classic
condition.
is not easy to
Like
do.
Mario, obviously, a classic, but
Exactly.
most people who had those used them. So you'd have to have, like, when we unboxed that Bondi Blue iMac, that was a rare classic in great condition that
Mhm.
booted up 30 years out the box. Like, that's the type of thing that actually maybe you can consider more valuable. But I guess if you were betting on nothing being this huge company in the future and this being a classic, that's a tough bet when you're, a very new
Exactly.
tech company. But, if you believe in that bet and you're getting it as an investment, then maybe you do buy one of these. Or maybe you just want the headphones.
Yeah,
You
I
just got to
guess.
have them early.
I think when you're selling it as like basically a collector's item, I can only imagine the person who gets 1 out of 100 on this is going to never use them and immediately keep them as a collector.
I wonder.
I would guess maybe some of these first 100s people use.
I
And
think it
are just
depends
like,
on how much they win the auction for.
True. I would also like to guess prices that we think some of these go for.
If the top one goes for like $500, I think they're going to just use them as headphones. Because they're just earbuds, like $500. You spent more. You're like, wow, I got the first ones. Let me use them. I'm going to unbox them on camera and the CEO will retweet me. But if you spent like 10 grand, like if it gets crazy on StockX, which it can sometimes, then I would say probably that person's going to also buy another pair at general availability and just keep the one of 100 one that they spent 10 grand on and hope maybe someday it's a classic. I just don't think it's going to get that high.
We'll see. Let's guess top bid and bottom bid.
It would be really funny if one of the top 100 bids was under $100 so that they actually got a discount.
I did not think about that. That would be hilarious.
From being one of the first 100. No, I think let me go top bid. I think someone's going to spend $1,500.
I was going to go as high as 3,000. For the number 1 of 100 that's my guess.
Do you get to, if you're the highest bid, you get number 1 of 100?
Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, that's how it works. It's not 100 individual bids like I thought it might be. It is you bid for one and the top 100 bids get the top 100 based on. So if you are the top bid, you get 1. If you are the 100th top bid, you get number 100.
So you don't get to decide you want number 3, you just have to hope you're the third highest bid.
Yeah, which I think is kind of interesting because at least in NFTs, in the sense of like Top Shot, the number edition was like really important with the value of it because ultimately, even though maybe what number's LeBron?
So LeBron will be like jersey number 23, and they'll sell 100 of this NFT, but the 23rd edition one will be worth more because it matches his jersey number, right? This one a little different. You don't get to pick. I guess like you could really bid and try and get in between a certain one, but do you? Again, we're assuming this holds value afterwards on StockX. This might be known already, but is there public viewability of all of the bids? I assume you only see the highest bid when you're bidding, but this could be different. I've
seen a different NFT sell similarly to this, and it had just the leaderboard of bids. And so it had what number? Because, I mean, if they wanted to make the most money possible, they probably would not show the last ones because you're just going to, the number 100 is just going to be like a dollar bid over and over, like a fight at the end, probably. Right. Yeah, I'll be interested to see how it is. I think lowest bid, 225,
125,
125.
Yeah, that's my guess.
We'll see.
We'll keep an eye on it.
I think you might be right on that.
We'll we'll check up on this next episode when we know. But let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about space. This episode of Waveform is brought to you by Mini Cooper SE. So you may or may not know, since I try to be subtle about it, I do really enjoy electric cars. So the Mini Cooper SE is electric. It's charged for the city and ready to spark up your drive. So it's a zippy little car designed to be as stylish as the city you drive it in. And unlike other EVs, the Mini Cooper SE doesn't look like it's out of a sci-fi movie. It still maintains its classic design that won't look out of place driving through the streets in New York City. Can confirm. Driving the Mini Cooper SE was really fun because it's a mini. It handles like a go-kart, and maneuvering through traffic safely, of course, on the way to grab lunch was a breeze. Parking is super easy in a mini. So there's some of the
That's
upsides.
Important around here. Yeah.
It is important in New Jersey and New York. So it's actually pretty roomy inside, considering Andrew and I are both pretty tall, both sitting in the front seats. 2 people over 6 foot, plenty of headroom, plenty of footroom. I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
And it gets up to 80% charge in just 35 minutes with fast charging at level 3 DC charging stations, or just charge overnight at your home with a regular AC charging outlet. Plus, the electric digital instrument cluster puts all the important things right at your fingertips. So it's this unique looking circular instrument cluster in the middle of the car. Makes listening to your favorite music or podcast in the morning as simple as can be. Plus, the lights around the screen move as a dial when you adjust things. So if you turn the AC up, it lights up the outside of the circumference of the dial.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun,
nice.
like trying all the different things, like volume, AC,
volume,
everything.
Same. So that was pretty cool. And it's refreshing actually just having real knobs inside of a car to change modes. So that's all there the way it is in a normal Mini Cooper. So if you're interested, if you're in the market for a compact, stylish, quick little car to get you around the city, then it's worth checking out the Mini Cooper SE to see if it's right for you.
All right, so we're back. I have kind of a lot to teach you, I feel like, if that makes sense.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm sure you saw, like, just in general, going to space has been the topic of headlines everywhere. I think a lot of it has to do with SpaceX, obviously, and Elon consistently talking about colonizing Mars.
Yep.
What would you say, last 5 years that's really like blown off?
Plenty of time. I mean, yeah, humans need to be an interplanetary species. That's the halo sentence I keep hearing. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's a little more intense than what we're about to talk about. But in this past week, a big news headline, I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago, was Richard Branson and Virgin Galactic making it to space. And
I was peripherally aware that this is happening. I wasn't following it specifically. I was traveling. I was playing Ultimate, but I think I was in a restaurant and I saw it on TV.
Okay.
Like it was just happening somewhere. Richard Branson went to space. Oh, okay. Got it. Cool. All
yeah. Right. So the first thing I'm still struggling what to call this. I like whenever I think about space, I want to call it space travel, but to me that feels like something more along the lines of like I'm traveling between places in space, which this is very much not.
Space tourism.
Okay, that's what we'll call it. Space tourism. So I'll explain a little more the like scientific name of what they're doing, but that's just not fun to say over and over again.
Okay.
All right. So like you, I kind of just peripherally saw this I saw it on Twitter instead. It was this really cool video of them like up in space. Richard Branson and I believe it's 5 other crewmates were in space, floating around, looking down on Earth, you know, like the typical in space thing. But what really like interests me is they showed footage of it launching up into the last couple like miles into the atmosphere. And it was like crazy. It looked really, really cool. It kind of reminded me of when we first saw the SpaceX rockets like re-entering and landing upright.
That looks surreal.
It looked literally fake, like CGI. And that's what this kind of looked like. So it intrigued me enough to dive into a rabbit hole of trying to figure out what's going on in this kind of like, we'll call it a modern day space race because Richard Branson's not the only one doing it. We all also know about Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin going up. There was actually a headline recently about them passing their last regulations and they will be launching July 20th. So like we're talking the same month, 2 people.
That's pretty
space tourism.
Is Jeff personally going also?
Yep. Jeff and his brother are going.
It's hilarious.
That's
hilarious.
That's all of that intrigued me. I watched a bunch of videos. I read a bunch of articles. The best one to me was from a channel called Everyday Astronaut. I'm sure you've heard of them.
Yep.
If you are a longtime fan of the channel, you've probably heard of them because we participated in something called Project Love Day, which was shooting a commercial for Tesla.
He made a great one.
He made a fantastic one. And,
was he a placement finisher at least? Right.
He was. I don't know if they did first, second, third. We won. I'm still very proud of that video. I liked it a lot. I rewatched it last night. Yeah. But if I'm being honest, I kind of think his should have won.
His was the favorite one that we didn't make, for sure.
I thought his was fantastic. But he made a wonderful, like, 30-minute video comparing Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin and everything that's going on. I will definitely link it and their Project Love Day in the show notes. You should check it out. I'm going to try and do a much more condensed but still pretty long explanation of what's going on, and I want to see your thoughts on it.
I'm excited. All I know right now is it's basically a race between these billionaires to get to space for bragging rights.
It is the billionaire midlife crisis, I think Adam described it as, and I thought it was hilarious. We're past Corvettes. We are now building spaceships as your midlife crisis. So
the bigger spaceship.
So if we get past the point that these are just a bunch of billionaires racing to get into space, the rest of it's really interesting.
Okay,
I think.
sure.
Okay, so what kind of amazed me is how different, despite launching in the same month, how different both of these ways of getting into space are. And the big thing here that's different between SpaceX, which is going up and bringing people to like the space station and literally going into orbit, is these are suborbital rides.
Yeah.
Which is very, very different. These are not going high enough to actually get into orbit, hence the name. And while it's still breaking the barrier into what we consider space and getting into space, it is a very short ride into space.
Yeah, I think this is where I'm like, it's probably semantics, but like calling it going to space is maybe a bit generous. Like obviously planes are going up to, let's call it 30,000 feet. That's what, 6 miles up, something like that. But then you've got, other much more higher flying aircraft, military planes, other things like that, flying much, much higher in the atmosphere, but they're not in orbit in space. Like when I think of in space, I think of like the space station orbiting the Earth 250 miles from Earth.
Yeah.
That's in space. I'll give them that. So there's sort of a couple like, lines that have been drawn where you pass this line, what is it, 50 something miles?
Okay, so there's something called the Cameron line, which is like widely known as the start of space, and that's 60 miles above the Earth's surface.
Okay. And so then, but you're still not orbiting the Earth. You can do a temporary free fall and have that weightless feeling, but you're not orbiting the Earth at that height. So so they're just getting past that line just for bragging rights? Is that what's happening?
Sort of. That's one of the key differences between the two, and I'll explain it. But let's see. So that got me a little off track, but I will get on track here. What we're going to do is I'm just going to kind of describe both of the ships to you.
So where do we start then?
I'm going to start with Virgin Atlantic. They did it first. Also, one little note I thought was funny. They weren't supposed to launch until August, or Richard Branson wasn't supposed to go until August. I think they were still doing test flights, and he decided to just go a little earlier.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I wonder why. Jeff Bezos right around the corner. He claims not for that, but like, come on. Also, just admit it. I think that'd be hilarious.
Just say it. I wanted to be Jeff. I wanted to be Jeff. And I did. Yeah. Eat it, Jeff.
Yeah.
Let's just say it. Okay.
All right. So the Virgin Galactic spaceship, it is called the Spaceship Two Unity. And I still have a little confusion here because it's actually two separate vehicles in how they launch. So I believe the Unity is the name of the vessel that the pilots and the people are in. And one thing between these two, what's very different between them is that these are like for non-trained, like this is for commercialized space travel, tourism, whatever you want to call it. Whereas, NASA and SpaceX is much more like those people are trained to do stuff like that.
You have to be, yeah.
Yeah, so these
pedestrians can be in this.
Exactly. These are being made for the commercialized space tourism. So anyone can get a seat. And the plane for Virgin Galactic is, imagine almost two medium-sized planes, and they're connected at the inside wing. It almost looks like if you had a catamaran boat.
I think that's what I saw on the news.
Wing,
I saw
as a plane.
This crazy-looking like plane, but it was like three planes connected. It was a very strange sight, but
exactly.
Okay.
And then the one the people and the pilots are in is actually like underneath it in the middle.
Okay.
So if it then takes off, it flies to a certain altitude, which I still think was 2 or 3 times the altitude of what a regular plane flies at. So still very high. I think it is actually high enough to where you still see the dark edges around the Earth. Okay. So like that's pretty impressive. And then this is what got me interested in all of this. There's a video of the bottom craft. It detaches from the plane as it is flying, falls, rocket the thrusters, the boosters, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure there's an official name that I'm doing wrong. Take off, and it just launches past the initial docking plane, I guess you would call it.
Okay.
And then goes Mach 3, I believe, 3 times the speed of sound, straight up into the air and into space. And it looks like straight out of a James Bond movie. It looks like it was some sci-fi thing. Like it was another one of those, like the SpaceX rockets landing that no part of me believed it was real at first.
Yeah.
And then essentially what that accomplishes is after it detaches, launches into space, it gets you just high enough. I believe it's 55 miles above the Earth's surface. So not quite the Cameron line. And
all right, let me watch this. So What am I searching?
Describe it also for audio listeners.
So I'm seeing the Virgin Galactic plane go up. It does really look like two planes attached to each other, which is pretty funny. Oh, there goes your speed, 600 miles an hour, 2,000 miles an hour. All right, this thing is popped out of the bottom of the plane and is now rocketing to 30,000 feet. That doesn't seem super
I don't think
high.
that is the...
Okay, now they're suborbital falling. Yeah, that part is cool. I like that you still can feel this. You can feel 0G, which is obviously super cool, but also the fact that you're so far out of the normal atmosphere that you can see the curvature of the Earth and you can see the space around the Earth.
You're definitely high enough that you're seeing the space around Earth. So that's what I think is like the big difference here, kind of between what you're talking about. Like there's no other airplane that's getting that high. And what it actually does is it launches itself straight up, and then if the wings, it almost looks like a paper airplane with the wings. It has these like very flat wings that go all the way to the back, and those turn. And then use air compression to actually flip it kind of upside down. So then you're looking back at Earth because it has windows above the seats.
That's smart.
And then here's the kicker. It's only about 3 to 4 minutes that you're in space. You unbuckle yourself, you experience weightlessness for a couple minutes. They have these really cool windows that have like handles on them so you can, grab yourself because you're floating around once you're unbuckled. Grab yourself, look out the window, check out Earth for 4 minutes, buckle back in, and then because it looks like kind of a small private plane, then you come back down and you just kind of coast like a regular plane and land totally normally on an airstrip.
Honestly, it sounds pretty fun.
It does
sound pretty fun. So now the Jeff Bezos Blue Origin version. How is that different?
Very different. So the ship, it is the Blue Origin New Shepard is the name of the ship. And it is much more similar to what we expect as like a regular like NASA rocket.
A rocket.
It is, yeah. And I always get kind of confused a bit. The rocket engine, I believe, is the large standing booster that sends the thing into space and generally comes back down to Earth. What's cool about this is essentially the passenger capsule is on top of the rocket. So imagine a rocket with maybe a little more of a circular top because that's where we're putting the passengers. Again, this is 6 people that can fit in here.
Okay.
The difference here is that it's fully autonomous. So in the other one, you need 2 pilots.
Interesting.
This is fully autonomous. Anyone in there doesn't need any training on how to land this capsule.
Okay.
So first, I think that sounds kind of freaky.
It sounds terrifying because you're like, what if something goes wrong? Who's going to save us? But okay.
There are a lot of really cool safety measures that I don't remember everything about them. So I would check out the video if you get a chance.
Yeah.
But it's basically just this circular table, or not even a table, a circular like ring of seats looking at what is actually the largest windows to ever go to space. I think that's pretty cool, which makes total sense in like a tourism consumer fashion. Rocket launches up straight into the air. When it gets to its peak, the capsule detaches, throws you up around 62 miles in the air. So this is over the official Cameron line, which is definitely a bragging right. Although
because the other one, Richard Branson's, did 55. Not cross the line.
It didn't cross the Cameron line
technically,
but from everything I've read, most scientists agree that there's almost no concernable difference between the two when you're at that point.
Yeah, no, I'm sure the difference between 55 miles and 75 miles above Earth it's like
when you're starting to lose scale.
Exactly. It's very far, both of them. But okay, yeah.
So that does bragging rights to Blue Origin. You're making it over the Cameron line. Exactly. Again, though, 3 to 4 minutes you get up there, you can unbuckle, you can float around, and then what happens here is you start floating, you descend, 3 parachutes come out, you float back down into the desert of Texas, and then a bunch of air compressors shoot out at the bottom to make it like a really smooth landing, which I thought was actually really neat because these thrusters exert so much power to even you out. Actually, when you look at it, it looks like it's impacting really hard because dust is flying everywhere, but that's from the booster. So much that if 2 of the parachutes were to fail, it would still get you down without life-threatening injuries, which probably still means it's pretty impactful, but you're not dying.
But yeah, good backup.
But yeah, another just capsule, you float up in the air, 3 to 4 minutes space. Again, pretty cool, I guess.
So here's a question. Here's my question for you. Is 3 to 4 minutes worth it?
Well, I guess we need the dollar value. Do you want the dollar value? Because
we have that.
Virgin
Yeah.
Galactic sold 600 reservations already.
Okay, so how much is that? It's very expensive for the first
Take
ones.
a guess.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go with $10,000 a seat.
$250,000.
$250,000. So I guess the novelty of these early tickets is you're one of the first.
Yes. So less than 1,000 people have been up that high. Just
That's the novelty.
Ever.
That's what you're paying for.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're paying for.
Okay.
Actually, if you want to even go a crazier price, which is totally not comparable, Blue Origin doesn't have a price yet. I don't believe they've taken reservations. They've done a ton of test flights, and this one coming up will be the first time anyone's in it. It's Jeff Bezos, his brother. I don't know the other, but apparently one other seat was sold for them, and it was like $26 million. But this is, you're going up with Jeff Bezos and like all that. So I'm sure it's clearly another billionaire probably.
Dollars per minute. That's hilarious.
Dollars per minute.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's the other thing though, is the total flight trip of Blue Origin is like 10 to 15 minutes because you're just launching up and you're coming straight back down.
Yeah.
The total round trip for Virgin Galactic is closer to 2 hours because it takes you so long to ascend to that initial launch point, and then you're flying the whole way back down. So in some cases, it's maybe like, all right, I have more time to experience everything.
Honestly, when I'm hearing this described, I think the Virgin Galactic one sounds better, like as an experience. Like I'm not gonna do this anytime soon. Most of us probably won't. But if I'm imagining like, all right, I have this crazy amount of money I want to blow on the novelty of going to space. Both of them are going to give you 3 to 4 minutes of in space weightlessness, space tourism, that whole experience. But I think the flying up in an airplane part will probably be more comfortable than a rocket launch.
Yeah, they didn't talk much about like the initial thrusting and everything like that.
Like I feel like I've seen enough rocket launches to know that's a very different experience than flying up in a plane. I've flown in a plane. It's, maybe that's a little more comfortable. But then just having that crazy 3 to 4 minutes and then it's over. And then you just have to remember that forever. Maybe they'll record it like a Disney World ride or whatever. Oh my
God. And then what, charge you $10,000
for
you land
the and they're like,
file?
Yeah, you spent $20 million on the ticket, so you got another $500,000 for this video of you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, wow. Well, so in the future someday, like really far in the future, this will be just another theme park attraction, right? That's the goal, is you want to be able to do space tourism commercially, viably, repeatedly, often for everyone. Like, let's make space a curiosity that anyone can check out. Go to the zoo one day, go to Disney World one day, go to space one day. I don't know how far in the future that is, but that's something I'm optimistic about and like hoping I get to do someday. And I hope
everyone gets to,
as many people as possible get to try out. But it's as long as today a plane ticket costs $100, $200, then I feel like that's about as low as you can go for a flight to space.
Yeah, so I don't think we'll see $100 to $200 in space in our lifetime. But I think you did mention something that I didn't talk about that I think is really important. Is you said, doing this consistently. Mm-hmm. All of this is reusable. Like the planes are obviously the Blue Origin, since it's a rocket engine, it's similar to SpaceX and where it lands itself again. And they've done like 12 trial runs and it's worked every time. It actually has enough thrust to get to the point of hovering before it lands. So it actually lands softer than Falcon. The difference is Falcon is massively bigger than Blue Origin. Yeah. Well, Falcon's not landing with the people still on it, is it?
No.
Yeah. But still, much, much different scale size. But that's pretty awesome. And then for those of you, this was like my main thing. When I think why, clearly space is an interesting idea. But when I originally thought why, it's like, that is a lot of fuel. Is it worth just like blowing emissions out to just like go into space for 4 minutes? I have good news and bad news. Virgin Galactic is just using like pretty standard fuel and has a lot of emissions. Blue Origin is using liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, so it is almost no emissions.
Wow.
I believe. So at least it is the much greener option out of the two, if that changes your mind at all. And that's the largest windows in space.
That part is really cool. I think it's, for me, maybe I've seen too many failed rocket landings to where, like, if I could have a horizontal takeoff and a horizontal landing, I'd prefer that. Like you said, 12 tests. And like, I hear you.
Oh, no,
12 tests.
trust me, I'm not getting in either of these anytime soon.
But you tell me, like, all right, they've done this rocket. It's launched 12 times in a row, and it's been great all 12 times. So you want to get on the 13th one? No, not really.
No, yeah.
I've seen a lot more successful flights, like, take off horizontally.
If I'm being honest, if I could pick anyone right now, it would just be if I could somehow get on the plane that launches the Virgin Galactic and just getting to that, about 3 times higher than a regular commercial plane, seeing the dark edges. And I think I would be pretty down with that.
We were talking about the Concorde a little while ago, about how that plane was supersonic and it had to go higher than normal in the atmosphere because it's thinner up there. And you would go way higher and go across the Atlantic in like 2 hours and land, and that was crazy. But yeah, I want to see the curvature of the Earth and a little bit of that edge of the atmosphere type space. That would be cool.
It would be awesome.
That'd be cool.
I have one more question for you.
Okay.
We obviously see SpaceX talking about going to Mars and everything like that, and Elon seems very interested in space. In fact, I think he may have already booked a flight on one of these. I think the Virgin Galactic. But do you think SpaceX ever looks at this route of like consumer space tourism, or are they just going to be full blown on the like, we're trying to colonize Mars, we're trying to get into space? Do you think SpaceX is going to go this tourism route, or more focused on their mission of, intergalactic?
It's a good question.
Interplanetary.
Yeah. From what I can tell, that is the mission.
Okay.
I
kind of think so too.
Yeah, making reusable rockets where when you inevitably need to take a flight to Mars, and obviously you get the boosters to get you out of the atmosphere and out of orbit, and then you bring the boosters back down, like you need to get a lot of stuff to Mars, a lot of people, a lot of cargo. And so to be able to reuse those rockets over and over again, like that's the thing that they're trying to solve. And I think maybe a consequence of the technology getting good enough is you are able to also bring people to space and make these cool, suborbital flights for space tourism. And that's pretty neat. And that satisfies a lot of the curiosity that we're interested in. I'm sure Neil deGrasse Tyson will be pumped about it. But I still think, the primary mission of improving rockets and making them reusable is to eventually be able to move things to other planets and to other places, and then humans are interplanetary, and then everybody's happy. But again, this is all like will any of this happen in our lifetime type thing? Like, I don't know. I want to be optimistic.
No. Maybe when your grandkids are keeping Waveform going in like 200 years, they can talk about it.
That would be cool.
We'll see.
That'd be cool.
So I think last thing on there is if you really want like a way more in-depth video on this, Everyday Astronaut, great channel, has a lot of cool stuff on this. And obviously we'll probably be making a ton of content because Blue Origin launches in like 2 weeks.
Okay.
So I'm really excited to then see that launch as well and see some video from up there and kind of compare the two. Because it's really awesome that we live in an age with such great cameras that we kind of get to experience it with them.
100%. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we got to talk about one last thing, which is the hot take we mentioned at the beginning. We'll see how it goes. This episode of Waveform is brought to you by Sennheiser. So while the truly wireless earbud market is really exploding over the past couple of years, I feel like no one has really put high quality sound as their first priority, but Sennheiser has changed that with their Momentum True Wireless 2. Now, we've all tested a bunch of headphones here. Do you have a go-to song you listen to when you plug in headphones for the first time? What do you turn on?
I mean, we get a lot of headphones here, so I think I have to go with. Ever since I started listening to Deadmau5 Let Go, it's just like he has so many different instruments and synths and stuff that he uses that I feel like when I'm using better headphones, I really start hearing like little things. So that's my fun one.
Yeah, that I hadn't heard before. I know exactly how Ongoing Thing sounds on like every pair of headphones. Sennheiser's always been a go-to when it comes to audio equipment for the channel. I've tested everything from the HD6XX to the HD820s that I've edited with. I've always loved how focused they are on delivering the best quality sound possible. So Sennheiser always puts their sound first. So these new Momentum True Wireless 2s deliver the best listening experience, and they have been finely crafted for even the most discerning listener of earbuds. So you can customize them with the free Smart Control app and adjust the sound to your personal preference with the built-in equalizer. And you can also switch off your surroundings and dive deep into that impactful sound because there is active noise cancellation in these as well. And the Momentum True Wireless 2 also have a 28-hour total battery life with the case, so you never have to worry. You'll be able to last a whole day with these. And if you're looking for something other than earbuds, Sennheiser actually has over-ear headphones and sound bars and all kinds of stuff for your audio needs. I can't say I'm surprised CNET called these the earbuds to get if you value sound quality over everything else, because that's what I would say too. So why settle for anything other than great sound? Come hear the difference with the Sennheisers. Right now, for my first 100 listeners who go to Sennheiser.com/podcast and use promo code WAVEFORM, you'll get 15% off the Momentum True Wireless 2 earbuds or any other Sennheiser's amazing headphones. So that's 15% off when you go to SENNHEISER.com/podcast and use promo code WAVEFORM. All right, welcome back to our new segment, introducing the Hot Takes segment. We're your hosts. That's all. That's as far I got with the intro. But
Wonderful. We'll workshop that.
I think it'll be fun. Basically, the tech world is full of hot takes, and we always have random, things that we're thinking, but we don't really say, but also maybe other people are thinking them too, and we'll just put them out there and see how it goes. I'm starting off kind of spicy with my hot take, and we've got you don't have any hot takes, right?
I couldn't think of one. I
might have to borrow some.
I think Adam's got a couple over there though, so we'll let him toss a few out.
We'll borrow some of those.
Up, yeah.
But let's just dive right in, because I want to see how far this gets before I end up either canceling myself or we'll see.
Please don't.
All right. Number one, I'm going to start with, we were talking earlier about Celsius and Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this isn't even my hot take. This is something I saw on Twitter and thought about, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I agree with that. That yes, the US should move to metric, but
okay,
Fahrenheit is better for weather, and that will be the reason we don't.
That will be. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, because that didn't start off. That was like cold.
So
I think we can all agree we should probably go to metric, right?
Right. The imperial system's insane. We have feet. We have all these weird degrees Fahrenheit versus ounces and all these crazy things. We don't really gallons versus liters. All these terrible.
And we're not even that consistent with it. Like soda is sold in liters, but milk is sold in gallons.
Gasoline's in gallons versus we've got
very
fluid ounces. I'm asking Google for conversions all the time. I would love to switch to metric.
Wait. Can I throw out just a little gripe I have that's really relevant right now? Google Home, when I ask you to convert something, just tell me the freaking conversion. I don't need to know how to convert it. I bought you for a reason. Please just say, yes, that is 1 cup is equal to X amount of grams.
You have to ask it the perfect way, or it'll go.
I don't want to. That's its job. That's not my job. Yeah. It's not paying me money to learn how to do it. Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So my thing is Fahrenheit, and just the scale that we use for weather. This isn't even for anything else. Water boils at 32 or freezes at 32, but boils at 212 in Fahrenheit. It's a weird system.
It's dumb.
But for weather, humans are very sensitive to temperature change, and there is a real difference between 68 and 72. And obviously decimals aren't the hardest thing in the world to get, but that was the one argument I saw on Twitter, which is if we could just use Fahrenheit just for weather, just to go from our, -10 or whatever to 105 degrees, that granularity, it's right there in the system itself. You don't have to use decimals nearly as often. That's the reason I think Fahrenheit so stubbornly stays. And if you keep Fahrenheit for degrees, then I guess you got to keep Fahrenheit for all temperature measurement instead of just weather. You also now measure water boiling and all the other things. Now we're just stuck on imperial forever. So I think because of how great Fahrenheit is for weather, we're stuck.
That's my hot take. I kind of understand your point in that if there's a difference between the generally 4 degrees in 68 to 72. I don't know if I really buy that much. I don't think there's much. I will agree if I look on the weather and it says 70, if it says a number in the 70s versus a number in the 60s, that to me, I'm happier. I don't know if I go outside and I generally feel the difference all that much. I still think it gets confusing though, where it's snow at 32 degrees, not at 0.
Yeah.
I mean, we're clearly not hitting boiling yet. I mean, we're well on our way to getting boiling outside, but I don't know.
I sound like such a Fahrenheit stan, but listen, temperature. Like, think about like grades you get in school. Like the difference between a B and a B plus. No, really, it's like 84 is a B.
That's such a different argument.
85 is a B, then 86 is a B plus. Like, why did we go from 85 to 86 being B to B plus? You'd rather have a B plus than a B, and that difference is 1, and that's like a 0 to 100 scale. Our temperature that we live in here is generally a 0 to 100 scale. Sometimes it's a little below 0 or a little above 100, but generally that's where we're living. Like the granularity in that perfect set of numbers, just from 0 to 100, is what makes Fahrenheit great. Everywhere else it sucks.
Yeah.
Everywhere else it sucks.
I'll give you this. If we were in a bubble and the only thing that would change, if I could only pick Fahrenheit versus Celsius and nothing else like really mattered, like, sure, I'll pick Fahrenheit over Celsius because it's a tad bit nicer. But if we're just talking about like,
he agreed.
If we're just talking about the whole thing, like I would rather change everything to metric and then get Celsius and do away with Fahrenheit and be like, oh no, it's 60 or it's 20.5 degrees Celsius outside.
Yeah, I just remember like changing the degrees in a car would be like 19.5, 20, 20.5. I'm like, that's interesting. It's going by 0.5s. Whereas like I'm just going by degrees.
The car argument might be a better argument if you want to make that, I think. Because like if I'm in a lot of cars now, the temperature gauge, it's not just, red and blue. It's like you're doing an actual number. And when I'm picking a number, sometimes I am just going down 2 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So like that's probably, I think that's the better way of like
air
really
conditioning. Air conditioning temperatures, there is this very small range of air conditioning temperatures. You might go from 65 Fahrenheit to 75 Fahrenheit. At least in this region in the US. Like 65 to 75 Fahrenheit is 10 Fahrenheit degrees, which is probably about 5 Celsius degrees. So now you're doing... Anyway, this is all nitpicking. I would much rather have everything go metric and accept the one downside of Celsius being less accurate in the middle.
I'm tired of feeling like an idiot going to other countries and just not understanding anything at all. I mean, Canada. That's mostly on me, but if I can blame it on the US, I would prefer to blame it on someone else.
Oh, school systems. All right, Adam.
It's
hot take time.
Okay.
Are you ready to potentially have both of us go at you?
Oh, I'm ready. Bring it on.
Okay.
Okay. My hot take is foldable phones are not the future.
Foldable phones. And do you have a reason, or it's just not feeling it?
I think that they're going to be very niche in the way that like the Note series for the Galaxies were niche. But most people are not going to want to deal with one extra step before getting to their phone. I think by the time that foldable phones are ready, quote unquote, there's going to be a different form factor that we're all using.
You know what's funny? I actually don't think that's a hot take.
Damn.
I think that's probably what most people also think.
Damn.
They see a folding phone. I agree. I think it's funny because I'd consider myself pretty optimistic where I think if the tech gets good enough that folding in half is just one more feature, I've said this before, then maybe people will just get the folding version and it's just a no-brainer. But that is a lot of assumptions. That's a lot of tech that has to improve to make that possible.
I don't think folding phones are in the next 10 years are going to be anything more than super niche. I think if they do get to a point, so your main argument I feel like is the extra step. We're seeing the outside screens where like in general, they should be just as capable as your regular candy bar phone right now.
Yep.
The problem is they're super thick and they're just not. Like we're not at that point.
Yeah,
especially the first fold. That was terrible.
That was the first one. Yeah. So we're in like generations 2 and 3 right now. So if we're going the next 10 years, imagine it gets better the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. And the cameras get better and the screens get better and the batteries get thinner and everything about every single component that makes them too thick right now or a little too unwieldy right now. All the hinges get smoother. Everything gets better for 8 more generations in a row. Will that still not be good enough? Don't know. I'm optimistic.
I think it has to reach that point and has to reach that point with a price point that's competing with everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, price is a feature.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think even if everything got perfect, I still don't think.
Do you have a guess at what the different form factor might be? Because I love this question. We've had this conversation before, and I really enjoy people thinking about different form factors of phones.
So this is going to be very boring, but I think we have the perfect form factor already.
You're
just
right.
a slab of
You're
glass
not wrong.
in my
I think
pocket.
about that a lot. Yeah. When you see a movie that takes place in the future, they inevitably just have like a candy bar form factor thing with like a projection at best.
I was gonna say, is the new form factor essentially like a projection, or even like almost like a non-physical thing? Like, let's imagine Google Glass in the future, where now you are seeing your phone in a viewpoint that only you can see, and like, you know, hand movements or something is what's actually doing the typing.
Well, that's more than 10 years.
Because like, who cares about a screen that can fold to be 6 inches when you can have a screen that's 60 inches that only you can see?
I think there's going to be a lot of that, but I think that the main hub of all of the computing that's going on is still going to be the phone in your pocket.
Yeah, I agree. I think I consider myself short-sighted when I think that, but I can't help but think that. So
I would still call it a hot take, though. I think there's a lot of people that would disagree with that, and
we'll see about those comments. We'll see
I'm
where
interested.
we land.
I'm actually really interested if people on our Discord and the podcast discussion section. I would really like to hear your opinions, because I kind of do. I don't know. I think they're going to be a thing eventually. I just think we're way farther than we think.
It might not be a hot take, but it's a slow burn.
Slow burn.
Yeah. All right, hit
Still-
us with
still
another
get
one.
hot.
Hit us with another one.
All right, another one. Garmin makes the best smartwatches.
That is a hot take. I would say now I've never used the Garmin smartwatch, but when you say the best smartwatch, my brain immediately goes to Apple Watch. So now you have to kind of probably qualify.
Yeah.
Best smartwatch overall, or best smartwatch that isn't for the iPhone?
I would argue best smartwatch overall, because even with Apple devices, the only thing that people genuinely care about is notifications and health features. And Garmin is just as good, if not better, with health features. And the higher end models, which are super expensive, also handle notifications very well. They just don't plug into iPhone the way that the Apple Watch does, for obvious reasons.
I think that's maybe the reason the Apple Watch has such a strong foothold. And I think the reason the Apple Watch is the most popular watch in the world isn't because it's like, you know, technically better than the Garmin's, but it does plug into the iPhone user in a way that none others can. And it's almost unfair that that's what makes it the best smartwatch, but that's a big part of why it's the best smartwatch.
Well, popular or best?
Both. It is the most popular because it is the best option. And I also think aesthetics might be a little of a underrated thing, since it is technically a fashion accessory. A lot of people...
You think it goes in favor of Apple
in
Watch?
favor of the Apple Watch.
I would
actually
argue the exact opposite.
That
I would
the
argue
Garmin-
the majority of
Let the
people
battle
who
begin.
enjoy, and I'm sure Adam can sis.
Let me pull
He's a
one up.
watch person.
That's true.
If you are a watch person, the Apple Watch is not something you're excited to get.
But how
It
many
is so
how many
much different.
humans on Earth
Are
are
watch people
watch person?
or
There's
like
7
a
of us.
typical watch? There are a lot. I mean, you can be a watch person without being like a Rolex, like expensive watch
I think
person.
that-
but watches just in general, like in terms of the fashion accessory that they are, and like if we're talking about wearing a watch with like a suit or something like that, or as a like kind of dress up fashion, Apple Watch doesn't quite hit that, where
Sure.
regular watches do, and Garmin watches are closer to that. Now, I also have a Garmin watch that I would not consider like really looking that much like a normal watch, because it's a very standard version of it, but I do love it for the health features that it has.
Yeah.
I'll only really wear it when I'm working out. It's fine. I think the one Adam has is much, much nicer than I have. And it just looks like a watch. That's what watches look like these days.
I think I could agree with that. The Garmin watch is a better smartwatch for some people, but I think the Apple Watch is actually, for a lot of iPhone users, the best available overall smartwatch
For iPhone. Well,
Yeah,
so here's the thing.
which is a lot of people.
And I also think in terms of most popular, if you are looking at a Garmin watch to buy and you're not 100% sold on it already, you're looking at other companies that make things that are similar. If you are in the market for just a smartwatch and you only have one option, Apple Watch doesn't have competitors in my eyes, because the people who an Apple Watch works for, it doesn't have a competition really.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's the best? You could probably argue that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
why
that's the
there's
thing. It's because iPhones are very popular.
I got to try one of these Garmin
That
ones.
is a hot take.
I'll end it with this. I need to try a Garmin smartwatch because I have not tried one yet, and
If you want to go into
a lot of good looking ones.
Because I do believe also there are a lot of ones that also have the secondary like monitors that you can hook up if you're trying to get like really intense because like body measurements and stuff like that.
Most of what I use the watch for is the health features, meaning fitness tracking and that sort of thing, time and notifications, and then sort of like a once in a while I'll be like, what's the weather on my watch? Or I'll ask Siri something, but that's very rare. So yeah, I'm going to try one of those out.
Garmin definitely has everything you were just talking about.
Sweet. Yeah. All right, maybe one more hot take.
Do you have any more?
I have another
hot take.
What's the spiciest available remaining take?
Spicy Adam.
The spiciest one I have is Clubhouse will be back. It is not done.
Interesting.
I think it is
with a new like feature. Is that how it comes back?
Not really. I just think everyone kind of wrote it off already as a social media thing that flopped and failed. It was just a pandemic kind of thing. I think they're not done yet. I think they're going to come back.
Here's one thing. I actually saw someone I used to work with who is not in the tech world at all posting that they were hosting a Clubhouse just to like talk about something they were interested in. And I was like, this is not where I was expecting to see Clubhouse talk.
Yeah. It pops up once in a while. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was really interesting. It's definitely broken into the mainstream, which is sometimes for us tech people is hard to like really remember that there's not nerds out there.
Well, this is what happened. Like the way I observed Clubhouse was it was iOS only, and I pay attention to numbers, so I was looking at like how many people that I follow were actually using it and hosting rooms. I think when it was iPhone only, I think I had about 30,000 followers on Clubhouse.
Oh wow.
And I slowly stopped using it. I kept getting notifications from it, so I was like, I could see when it was being used by people I followed. And then one day I just checked back after Android joined, and I think I have 300,000 followers on Clubhouse. So when you say broke into the mainstream, I just think it became much more widely available. And whenever that happens, it drops a little bit of the allure of like how cool it was. And that's like a very vain thing. Like it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
But now it's like it is much more used now than it ever has been, but not in the same hype type of way where like Elon was dropping into random clubhouses. When's the last time that happened? The most popular show that I follow on Clubhouse, The Good Times, I guess it's sort of a podcast basically, had Mr. Beast on and had, Addison Rae on and had all kinds of these really interesting people on, and I haven't really heard about any of these lately. And maybe it's because I'm not paying enough attention, but I'd be curious what Clubhouse coming back looks like.
I guess what I'm saying when I said mainstream, it's like all of what you said. Mr. Beast and Addison Rae aren't tech people, but they're still like in this creator community kind of thing, like people who follow social platforms. And like the person I saw was just someone I used to work in a restaurant with that just like is not attached to any of these.
And this was recent?
Like, it was like last week.
Yeah.
And hosting a Clubhouse room and posting about it on Facebook and probably not getting a ton of people, but just like, even if they're just trying stuff like that, I'm assuming they're getting a couple. And like, that does kind of feel like it's hitting a small social platform, the early stages of it, but
it's a good anecdotal indicator. I just don't know how well
it's about as anecdotal as you can get.
I don't know. I remember Zuckerberg did a room and like, I don't know, just that sort of thing. It's been a while since I've seen that kind of stuff. So I wonder if what would it take for Clubhouse to come back is my real question. Is it going to be some big social push? Is it going to be some big event that happens on Clubhouse?
Do you have a specific reasoning as to why you think it's going to come back?
My reasoning is very optimistic. I'm kind of looking at it the same thing that happened to Snapchat, where Snapchat came out with stories, Instagram copied them, everything has stories now, but Snapchat still carved out a niche where it's killing it. And I think Clubhouse is going to be the same thing, but for audio, where if they can keep innovating and being creative with audio features, they're going to have that niche audio audience.
Okay. I think that's possible. Because if you consider Snapchat's current state a success, I think Clubhouse can do that.
Snapchat hit its success by pivoting, essentially, though, because like their big thing now is AR and like Bitmoji, essentially,
They have a bunch of shows, and they still do stuff. They are not good. I'm just saying they do them.
A show on Snapchat like that might be one of the dumber things I've heard of.
But that's because we're not in the target audience. They are massive.
It's very
shows.
true.
Massive.
But,
so yeah,
I guess I I can see that being something similar, but then they would have to create some sort of specialized something for audio that changes the industry, and they might. I mean, Clubhouse changed the industry already, and it has a million competitors.
It birthed all of its competitors.
It birthed them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that one.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll check back in a year and see how wrong I was.
We'll see. I want to leave.
I still haven't used Clubhouse.
Oh, well,
I'm going to bring it back. We're bringing it. No,
you
I'm just
can now.
kidding. We're not bringing it back.
I'm going to leave this question with people at the end because I feel like you can tweet at us or let us know in the comment section. Is Clubhouse a feature or a social network?
Yeah,
is it an entire thing? I think we've sort of dabbled in this, but let us know what you actually think the answer is in the comments, because at this point it's clear that lots of other companies believe it's a feature and that they can just build into their app, and then there it is. They've done it. They've done what they had to do. But Clubhouse by itself could have something to it. So let us know what you think in the comments.
I can just say if I were Clubhouse, I would have sold out like immediately and just made a ton of money and then never
sold
worked
to
again.
LinkedIn.
I would have to LinkedIn. Oh man, actually, Clubhouse would work really good on LinkedIn. That sounds like the perfect place for a bunch of
that is pretty funny
hustle gurus to just like spew nonsense for a while.
There it is.
There's my hot take.
There's our first round of hot takes.
I thought that was a fun segment.
I'm
kind of bummed I didn't think of one, but I will definitely think of one for next time we have this segment.
We'll bring it back. We'll bring it back. Well, in either case, we'll be back next week. We've got a bunch more exciting stuff coming up. An exciting video I'm hoping to drop pretty soon. And maybe an exciting car will be in our hands soon. So we'll see about all that by next week. But in either case, make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already been on YouTube and anywhere you listen. And we'll catch you guys on Waveform in the next one. Peace.
Waveform is produced by Adam Molina. We are brought to you in part with Studio 71, and our intro-outro music was created by Vane Sill.